So as you can see, I don't know if you can't probably hear this, but today we are creating a new episode with the legend himself.
You're making him laugh already.
With the legend himself, Mr. Dan Koe. We have been friends for a long time now, and we have seen and witnessed your growth day by day ever since the COVID days when everybody was trapped inside. He is finally here in person. We no longer have to do a stupid Zoom call anymore.
Yeah, with impeccable quality now.
Yeah, you guys know that episode. Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
How you been?
Been good. It's been a long time. A lot's happened.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
They are fantastic. You're much taller than I expected.
Oh, yeah?
I assume that's something you get often, huh?
Yeah, it's hard to tell on camera. I've heard that like people think I'm like 5'6", and then they meet me and they're like, what the fuck is going on? So, yeah.
I mean, I'm in your normal average height, 5'8", maybe 5'9" on a good day, you know?
Yeah.
On a good day?
On a good day, yeah.
On a non-fat day. This guy, man. So for everyone that doesn't really know, if you look up Dan Koe, you'll find a lot, especially nowadays. So the best way that I was able to kind of authentically describe you is a self-mastery genius, if anything. And I'm dead serious when I say that, because it's the way you speak it, you know? And earlier, before all of this, I was talking to him and I was telling him, like, there was a lot of things that I appreciate about gaining my focus back. And it had a lot to do with the tone of human beings and the way things are spoken and the way things are delivered. And Dan is one of those people. So, yeah, of course, man. What you're doing is freaking amazing to all age groups. And I know, like, recently we just released an episode called How to Stop Feeling Lost, or, you know.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
kind of like, I think it was directed more towards the younger age group, because you hear that a lot. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, older people don't have midlife crises or anything. But it's a wonderful world that we live in. We just need to learn to see that. And I think the way that you kind of give people answers to how to systematically approach life, and through your metaphors too, because there's a lot of metaphors that you put out where people take literally, you know, like cut off everyone. And it's just like, that's it.
Oh, disappear for 6
Yeah.
months. That's the classic.
Yeah.
And that one catches on a lot, right? Or people use it a lot. And it's like, dude, I don't mean literally fucking disappear. How are you going to do
Like,
that?
talk to your mom, bro.
That's one thing me and Zaid were like, do you think people are actually doing that? To where they're like, all right,
Of course.
I've gotten
sorry,
some
mom
funny-
gotta go, you know? Like,
I've gotten some funny comments where one guy commented like, oh, you cut your hair. When did that happen?
yeah.
And one guy was like, oh, where have you been? And he's like, the other guy responded, he told me to disappear. I thought that was good. It was good, like, inside joke.
God, dude.
It's always amazing to me how people take things so seriously on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's some things you want to take seriously, but other things, it's just like, come on, you got to see through the nuance.
It's a wild world. And one of the things that I noticed about people is they'll go into this mode where they're like, well, how do you know you're correct? Like, why do you think that's the correct way? And it's like, well, it's been proven to work over and over, especially for these successful people that you probably look up to. And they just have this arrogance behind every statement that they make, where it's like, oh, no, the whole world is incorrect, but I am correct. Even though they have, according to us, very shitty standards or a very shitty way of potentially living the life. We only get one. So
I think you put it well earlier when you mentioned how, depending on the tone of the person, that's what allows you to like receive the message a bit better. Mm-hmm. For the people that leave kind of like the arrogant replies, in a sense, we're like, oh, like, how do you know all of this is true? And it's like, well, I don't necessarily for your situation. Like, I can teach you what I've done, but I can't like I can show you how to do it, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I feel like more people, especially me and all of us, need to approach advice with the mindset that that's not law, no matter how much the person that is speaking the advice makes it seem like it's law. Like it's just something to experiment with, and they're speaking from their own mind, and it could be absolutely true for them, but you don't know until you test it.
Mm-hmm. With everything that you have created over the past, let's say 4 or 5 years, how would you describe your work to somebody who doesn't know about you?
The way that I like to think about it is this could be a character flaw or it could be good or bad, but I've always rebelled against not necessarily the path that my parents took, but that was kind of the prime example of the default path or the conventional path that most people just kind of fall on. And so my content is anti that and providing solutions, mindsets, frameworks that I've found have been helpful for me in avoiding that path. Mm. So it's kind of like, when I say my parents, I don't mean to personally like put it on them. That was just like what I observed. So in spite of the conventional path is where my content was born.
Which is a sentiment that we definitely relate to. I mean, we certainly resonate with that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things where I don't necessarily judge the qualities, but I know what I don't want. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where you start attacking, you know? You kind of work backwards. So you subtract things rather than add. And then as you subtract, more additions will come later.
Is that how you started? You focused on what you wanted to?
I would say so. In retrospect, I didn't do it consciously. But like on the topic of like if you feel lost or how to navigate feeling lost, a lot of people have difficulty looking into the future and determining what they want. Like a prime piece of advice is like, oh, get very clear on what you want. But that's extremely difficult.
It's abstract and vague.
It's just like imaginary in the future, and you don't know if it's true. You can make a guess, which is good, and start working towards that so you can make mistakes. But a lot of people aren't motivated by a guess. So when you invert that and go towards what you don't want, or at least think about that, then you can at least get a bit clearer vision of what you do want. So it's like, in terms of what I don't want, you can just directly observe in other people, what do I not want? What actions lead to that? Go walk around Walmart. You can just like see, okay, no offense to the people, but it's like, I personally don't want to look like that. I'm sure I don't want to feel like that. From that, I can reason that I shouldn't purchase those kinds of foods or put them in my body. And that at least gives me some direction, at least in the domain of health. And then in business, it's like, okay, I don't want to work this job I hate, which has kind of become like bastardized in the sense like quit your 9 to 5, since it's so cliche and like gets an instant reaction now. The advice around it kind of just falls flat. So if you, it's helpful to like really determine what do you not want and then start searching for knowledge or advice to work in the other direction.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I think some of us are lucky in terms of like knowing what we really want to do. You know, sometimes like you don't have the means like money or whatever to get started, but that's something I think a lot of people complain about is I don't know what I like. You know, and my next question, you might agree with this, is do you ever let yourself get bored? You know, and then bored enough to where you're sitting with your thoughts rather than endlessly scrolling nowadays. And it's like, how would you go about giving someone advice to someone that doesn't potentially have their passion set up yet or something that excites them, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to try to string something together here, and it will go off of what we just talked about like trying to figure out or at least observe what you don't want, because a lack of interest in something signals to me that the goals that you're working towards don't demand you to be interested in anything. And so if we weave in conditioning here, since you were a child, you were raised to do specific things. Your mind was kind of trained to think in a specific way, like reward and punishment. When you're going through the education system, if you get a bad grade, you get punished. If you get a good grade, you get rewarded, so on and so forth. You kind of think in that way. The thing with goals and how they're interwoven with identity in many cases is that a lot of people think that they don't have goals, but those goals are just unconscious. So a lot of people who haven't kind of broken off of that conventional path have the unconscious goals of graduating school, getting a job, anything else that involves probably their parents or their teachers' values that kind of spread to them, retiring at a certain age. And since those are so deeply ingrained in their minds, they're only really the only thing that potentially interests them or is important to them is something that helps them get closer to those goals. And once you get into a job, there's some challenge there at the start, and it's interesting. You're going through another progression, like in a video game. Like when you went through school, there's the grade levels, and it's pretty interesting. School is fun in many cases. You're not bored or going crazy most of the time. And then when you get into a job, it's challenging at first. You learn the ropes of a job, and then depending on like how far that job allows you to progress and how high that career ladder goes, if you want to turn it into a career, depends on what kind of job it is. But for most people, pretty quickly, the interest in that wanes out. And then since the goal of retiring or staying at the job is still there, they don't find anything else interesting because it's not going to help them achieve a goal that they don't have. So when you really start sitting with what you don't want in life and registering those experiences and self-reflecting on the past few years of your life, then the new goals kind of start to form of what you want, and you start to change direction. You start to absorb more knowledge or information. You start to follow more people because your mind is a bit more open to going towards those goals, and things start to just take shape in your environment and your decision making that leads to those goals becoming more of a thing. And then more of life becomes interesting to you because the interesting things present opportunities for your future. So it's kind of back and forth there of figure out what you don't want. Okay, start putting yourself in the environments and surrounding yourself with the people and information that helps you start moving a bit closer to what you do want. You'll learn a lot along the way, and you'll refine your vision for the future a lot more. And then that alone kind of is what creates the interest. Then when you go in on the interest and start testing, experimenting, that can turn into passion in some ways, and then maybe obsession, so on and so forth. You just try a bunch of shit at that point because you don't really have any guidelines. You don't have the school or job to frame your mind in that sense and guide you along the way. It's kind of up to you to bounce like a pinball until you hit something that you want to pursue.
Well,
It's kind of like the difference between a video game that gives you specific guidelines or limited, let's say, playing field versus open sandbox.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the way you put that makes a lot of sense. Very eloquent, by the way.
Thank you.
And I think that, most people I think a large part of this is just the culture, because ultimately where do you get the unconscious goals from, right? It's just the culture that you're tapping into. And so I guess it's just about breaking boundaries. And the question is, how do you break boundaries? Do you have somebody in your life who dies, which opens your mind to then go search for new things? Or, do you just get hit with a random thought one day and you're just like, why am I doing this shit? And then you go down a new path,
Yeah.
So it's like there's a million ways to go about it.
Yeah, one thing I find interesting is like why certain thoughts come at certain times. Like when you get like driving hypnosis during road travel, you start to go into like a different mindset. In the shower, you have a different mindset. And it's kind of like when you need to perform, sometimes you shut down and you're like, damn, I have no train of thought anymore. So it's like being smart and noticing like your trends as to why you have different thought processes, even though it came from the same mind. Like, how do you trigger it when you need it, you know? And that's where like I really tried to get into the ego a lot, in terms of like philosophy. And for me, it was a little bit confusing at first, at least. And then slowly I started to understand more like you are not the ego. And there's a way to detach from that so that you can actually access those thoughts constantly, so that they're not at the same difficulty level anymore. Like a lot of genius ideas I have are in the shower. And it's going back to the focus aspect. It's because you're not necessarily focused on either your alter ego, your ego itself, or any of that. I just find that super fascinating that everybody has that power.
It's
and
like
here we are.
It's the biggest mindfuck of them all. It's like your greatest work comes from you not thinking about it.
Literally.
Or just not thinking in general.
Yeah. And it's
flow state,
you know? And then that takes me into like silence. So when you disconnect from people, you become harder to guess, but you also develop a lot of mystery around it, right? That's what Carl Jung has taught us, is there's a power in knowing when to be silent, essentially. And a part of that being silent is basically cutting energy off, which is cutting people off. You've mentioned like cutting apps off or whatever that you find isn't beneficial to your optimization, essentially. And I really don't know who this message is going for, but I think it's just such an interesting idea that we are all created for us to start creating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I think the majority of the world believes that we were created by higher power. So therefore, what do we do from there? And people like Carl Jung they were just people, and they nailed it. They figured it out in terms of like what this life purpose is for, how to retain energy, especially the older you get. I just turned 31. You're what, 28?
29,
yeah. How old are you?
28.
28.
All the cool kids here.
Like I feel like there's like at that age, you start to really want to conserve your energy, and mix that in with wanting success. You need to do these things, and it's not really like at this point, dude, it's either you're going to be Walmart people or you're going to try to find success, you know? Like,
don't be Walmart people, bro.
The people of Walmart.com. Go
Yeah.
check it out. It's like
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I don't really know if there's a question here, but it's just, to me, it's such a fascinating topic that there's no way to cover it all in one episode, of course, but I think it's more like it's more like a thank you to your service, because you also figured it out, you know? And more commonly these days, people might reject those ideas, but still want the success or still want the money. I know a lot of people where they would graduate from college and they'd be like, all right, immediately, like I need like project managing position. And I'm like, well, there are steps, you know?
Yeah.
But why do you want the project management position? Well, power and money. It's like, okay, you got to get there. It's like, that's just how I'm, like, after the books I've read, I'm just like, there are steps to developing yourself before even developing the work and skill set for you to even think about getting there, you know? And I don't know if this has any relation to attention span or whatever it is, but I feel like people are wired to want to do things super quickly and take shortcuts all the time. And the reason why I mention that is because you've mentioned the book title, The 4-Hour Work Week. And 4 hours a week? Come on, dude. Like,
yeah,
you're barely working, you know? And that in itself is a shortcut in some sense. But there are clever ways to take shortcuts to where you're actually still optimizing, learning new skill sets, and developing a system to where you are going to succeed. you know.
Well, it's like the ultimate shortcut is like creativity and flow, right?
So shortcut can be negative, right? And just like I mentioned, college student graduates, wants immediately $200K a year.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the immature view. Well, I guess this is interesting. Like, how do you view creativity and flow? Because I've always been fascinated by flow, especially as an athlete in my earlier days. Like, what do you think about that, and how do you approach it?
I don't think about it too much anymore. I have, like, if you've read the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, that one's just really good. It kind of falls in line with what we talked about earlier about what you don't want out of life, what you want out of life. But then the reason a lot of people can't get into flow is because they don't have the skill to match the challenge of the situation that they want to take on. So that guy, for example, who wants to go straight into the project management job, that is like him being level 1, trying to take on a level 50. And you can't really do that, especially in a video game. Like it's just not, one, it's not going to be fun, which is important to things that you do in the world.
True.
And 2, it's probably going to be overwhelming and you're going to lose very fast. And there's a plethora of problems that come along with that. And you're going to be very disappointed. Your expectations are going to be shattered, which actually could be a good thing. But then there's the opposite one, where if you are a certain skill level, but the task that you're doing isn't that challenging, you're going to get bored. So we have anxiety, we have boredom. And then in between, when you have like the right amount of skill, so you're very good at something. Zaid, when you're playing soccer, you probably, drills may be boring here and there, but once you get into that zone where you're like, okay, this is challenging enough, but I feel like I can take it on, that's usually like right when it clicks.
Yeah.
And then pertaining to the ego, the reason, I don't know if this is why the flow state is so powerful or so spiritual, it could be in that sense.
Feels like that. Yeah.
Is that like you don't have any attention reflected back on yourself, right? Because when you're anxious about something or overwhelmed about something, you're usually self-conscious, where like you see a blemish on your face in the mirror and you instantly start thinking about yourself, how bad you look in relation to another person. That's where your attention's going. It's just reflected back on yourself. And then if you're bored with the task at hand, then you're self-centered, because if you're at work, the tasks aren't that challenging. You're going to be thinking, okay, what could I be doing better with my time? And then your attention is reflected in that way. But in between, you can only focus on the task at hand. Your attention isn't reflecting back on itself, kind of giving life or creating yourself, the ego. And that's like when perception is very clear, and that's what makes the experience feel so good and spiritual, is because there is no potential for boredom or anxiety or any of the other, I guess, like mind map of emotions that stem from those, right? So stress on the anxiety side, boredom, whatever else comes from that. You can think of like the spectrum of emotions that way. So those are kind of my thoughts on flows. If you can get very clear on the tasks that you want to achieve and then create specific stepping stones for yourself to take, so that each of those, it's like an increasing level of challenge. That's why when you start working a job, it can be very fun and it can be very challenging and you want to do the task, but then eventually you just start doing the same task day all over again until you try to get a promotion or you try to reach that next challenge. And so this is why I'm so big on, at some point, trying to do your own thing, is because then you're in control of the challenge of whatever you do. Like if you have to go to this specific job and you can't get out of the job, you don't want to get out of it, you don't want to get a promotion, you don't want to do anything else but just go to the job, it can get very boring and kind of damaging to your mind because you're just bored all the time, or anxious because you're just stressed out about going to work and not wanting to be there. And so that creates like an even worse loop. And so why I like doing your own thing, entrepreneurship, is because it is unknown, it is uncertain. You have to create the quest that you go on so that you can control how challenging it is. One big problem that comes up there is a lot of people go from, okay, I'm here, I want to achieve this big goal. They get anxious, but then they may start to try doing that thing, but they can't, and they think their only option is to quit because they don't have the knowledge or skill, or they haven't created the sub goals that gives them more clarity on how to achieve that thing. Like the singular thing that you'll hear the most is like, how do I start? Or just how do I do this specific thing? And that solves most of it for you, is honestly just break it down.
Which to us is kind of an interesting question. I mean, it's kind of it's a weird question, if I'm being honest. Like, what do you mean? How do I start?
You just start.
You just start, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
so there's two things: you either don't or do. So, and then you do. And,
which is kind of
as dumbed down as that is, but
which is kind of the reason why I like. We talked about this last time in the being lost episode. It's just like, start somewhere, do something. I don't care if you go in the wrong direction. At least do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Because plotting is doing something.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is why you're big on starting your day off by writing. Even if it's 30 seconds, man. You can't do 3 minutes. Yeah. Do 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. It's like what is it? It's not like a reverse Zeigarnik effect. It's just the Zeigarnik effect in general. When you start doing something, no matter what it is, you open a loop that you want to close. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people use it where they stop doing their work at a specific time so that it's unfinished, and the next morning they want to get back into it. But the people who just can't get started with something, literally just sit down and start like writing in your journal or just clicking around on Photoshop or something like that. Just make some progress. If you're writing a newsletter or a podcast outline or whatever it is, just start. Doesn't matter how good the ideas are, because that's what gets the ideas flowing in the first place.
And mastery. Like ultimately people have to understand that you're not going to have amazing ideas when you start out.
And that's probably the best thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
Is make a mistake, because then at least you have like the only way to gain direction in an unknown territory is to make the mistake, so that it kind of like shines the light and like, okay, don't go that way, go this way. Okay, another mistake, another mistake, another mistake. And then you're perfectly en route to whatever it is that you want to do.
It's called experience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And to make a mistake, it means you did something. So
yeah.
Here's a question for you, because like in the circadian space, I've been in it maybe 3-4 years at this point. And I always, the last few months, I talk about cutting edge stuff. Like I find myself at the cutting edge of certain ideas and certain results with people's health from a circadian standpoint. Where do you find yourself at the cutting edge right now in terms of your, whatever you're working on? Because I know you came up with a new book, just whatever you're working on.
I wouldn't say I'm at the cutting edge of it, because that's kind of impossible, but I've really been getting into AI right now. Not for coding, not for what I feel like is the popular thing right now, but just like in my own workflow, like really using it a lot has opened my mind to it a lot. Where before I was kind of just like, this is cool. I can type into it. I can get an answer back. I don't really see this going anywhere. And now it's like, I feel like I'm in control of this little god that I can like tailor in a specific way for all different tasks. It's like I can feed it like 3 different PDFs on like Ken Wilber, Alan Watts, whatever, create like this tribe of mentors and have them respond to me in a specific way to see what they would say on a specific situation. Or like you can literally do anything, where my favorite way to use it right now is depending on whatever the task is. If I want to create a YouTube video, then I'll go onto YouTube and I'll just search how to create a viral YouTube video as an example. And I'll find one that I think is good. I'll paste that into AI, not get a summary from it, but ask it to teach me in very detailed steps, like how to create the YouTube video. And then I turn that into a prompt, and I have like this prompt that creates prompts and just like outputs them for me.
That's incredible.
So I'll like feed it to it and be like, hey, I want to create a prompt that helps me create a YouTube video from ideation phase to the script writing phase. Use this to actually create the YouTube video. And then you feed it the detailed guide, and then the prompt just guides you through like, hey, here's 3 ideas you could go about this week. They're really good ideas. Okay, here's the outline for that. Do you want to change anything? Add your own ideas? Do you want to pull ideas from your previous newsletters, whatever it is? Okay, here's the YouTube script. I don't really use that because I still like writing my own newsletters, but that's just like one easy example of find a PDF or YouTube video to teach the AI, turn it into a prompt, use that, refine it, and that works for just so many different tasks.
I wonder if most people who use AI have that level of creativity, because you have to have a level of creativity to use it properly.
That's one thing I'm paying attention to right now, because we're building Cortex. It has AI in it, and I'm trying to figure out like what's that one thing that OpenAI, Anthropic, all these other things aren't going to do, but is also relevant and has a lot of potential. I don't know if we've gotten to it or if we're ever going to get to it, but we have ideas that we're going to execute on. But what I found is that with AI, so many people treat it as the general thing that it is. I can ask it questions like Google, I can get a mediocre answer. But if I want, where I find the magic of AI is taking the AI system and installing my creative idea in it, like
Bingo.
training it on my creative idea. And then when I give that to someone, it's so much more powerful than just like going to ChatGPT and asking that thing. So we're trying to find a way to make that like what you do in Cortex, where it's like you install the context and mind that you want to create in there, but you can share it with people to interact with it. So
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Should be cool.
Very.
I mean, I honestly use it daily.
Yeah.
But I think that the misconception people have is that you're using it as a plagiarism tool. There's a lot of people who do that. But I think that what you're describing is taking it to another level and essentially putting your expertise or putting your perspective
make it
into that.
Not plagiarize.
Rewrite as beats. Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I've been like, my mind has slowly been shifting. I don't want to become another one of the like radicalized people of like, oh, AGI is going to take over the world and be so transformative. But I find it hard to believe that that's not the case. And with the whole plagiarism thing, or that if you use AI too much, like you're thinking, like you're not going to be able to think as well. And I thought that too when I was starting to use it for like research for my writing, or I'd have it try to write some of my writing. I don't like doing that yet. But one thing I found is if I really think about like how I learn things specifically and how I really get to know a concept or idea, it comes from reading, reflecting on it, changing it up, looking at it from different angles, asking questions, conversing with something, teaching it. And when you go through that process with AI, even if it's doing the writing for you, if you're just not doing it in like this cheap way where, hey, write this book for me, okay, I'm going to publish that right now. If you're going through it and you're really paying attention to each line, how you want it to sound, you're still treating it as a craft, I would argue that you're learning more by using AI because you have all of these intelligent ideas. It increases the not only like how quick you can iterate, but how many iterations you go through in a short amount of time, because you have someone that can just bounce back and forth with you, like this highly intelligent being that's bouncing back and forth with you very fast to create something.
Is this serendipity? Is that essentially what you're pointing to?
Potentially, yes.
Because it's just expanding or broadening the pool of ideas that you're using or have at your disposal.
Yeah, you're increasing like surface area for serendipity.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I see the potential of it every single day.
It's not necessarily a cheat code. It's more like you're still spending the time.
It's like an extension because you're the one talking to it.
Yeah.
Right? It's completely different if we go off in separate corners and start trying to accomplish the same task. If we don't just like put if we try to actually do the task well, we're going to do completely different things, and it's going to take our shape. I think.
No, it's true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the same thing with graphic designers. I mean, a lot of graphic designers are being hired as someone that's really good at communicating with AI to bring out whatever it needs, like quick, you know. Which means you still need the creativity aspect.
Yeah.
So AI, remember that fear that everybody was talking about, where AI is going to replace everybody?
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. Like, You just need a firmware update. Every person needs to start using AI.
That's a good way to put it.
And really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I just went back to school, to be honest. And it's just something that I needed to prove to myself. Because I quit, and I've always been like more of an entrepreneurial type of person, flipping things and doing whatever. And then I took on photography, and I started freelancing, and then I started a media company. And then I built this giant client list. And then now I somehow got into real estate photography, and I have 28 photographers that work under us. And we took over SoCal.
It's fire.
And we're recently moving to Arizona. And then we're going to hit another market in Texas. That's my goal for now.
Crazy.
This year. So I don't know how I got here, but I mean, I started with literal routine, and Zeta's helped me a lot with this in terms of like, okay, you need to start eating well, retain energy. And then I've discovered that there are many other ways to retain energy by either letting go of certain things, stop kicking it with certain people. And even if I had to be bored, there was a lot of times in my life where I just needed to sit in a corner and just like sit in my thoughts, you know. You merely adopt the dark. I was born. No, not that kind of darkness, but it was just like more like, hey, I need to really indulge into knowing who I am more. And that's kind of how it started into getting into the field of how do I successfully approach this, especially if I want the money later. Turns out you don't focus on the money. It's all in the little things, you know?
Yeah,
So
it's
this
the
guy
right
was
thing to
like,
focus on.
you would literally message me. You're like, go take your walk, boy. And I'm like, yeah. Like, all right.
Well, you've talked about walking a lot too. Yeah, that's one of the most powerful habits, period.
Yeah. Experimental wise, it worked for me. So taking a walk really helps. So anyone that's listening, like start walking.
It's incredible.
And don't use headphones.
Who knew that? Who knew that?
If you do, just put on some like, I don't know, some ambient Alan Watts and just, you know.
That's what I haven't done that in a while, but I remember I like having whenever I move somewhere, I've realized that to whatever location that I move to, I need a thinking path. I've always wanted the place to be walkable, but now after living in a few cities, it's like, I don't care if the grocery store's close. I don't care if the gym's close. Like I can drive to those. I enjoy the drive to them. I need a place where I can just pace back and forth in quiet, outdoors, in the sun, preferably shirtless, get my sun for the day, and just like chill out and let my mind open and not be in any other state that it's in when I'm at the gym or I'm doing work or whatever it may be. It's just completely open and free. Then you throw on Alan Watts and it just like 10x's that. And you're like, how are you speaking this way?
Yeah.
It's
insane.
It's good.
And each walk, depending on the time of day, like I like day walks, but I also like evening walks. And then I really like night walks because it seems to increase the depth of creativity, I think just by the mere nature that everyone's at home and not outside.
Yeah.
Remember that stupid thing we used to do?
What?
We used to chill at the studio till like nighttime, and then we'd take our AirPods, go to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Yes. We put on some chill music and we just like run around the ocean at night.
Yeah, that's a different taste on it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Super cool. So if you guys haven't gotten the hint, there's like a certain theme here in terms of like what it is that you need to be focused on in terms of success. Success isn't just being serious all the time, you know, and getting meetings together. It's spending time with yourself in a certain way. And a lot of that is hard to describe. But there are some examples like we mentioned here, like screaming at the beach. I don't know, do whatever you want, you know? But scheduling time to think too. What do you think about that? Do you think you should, because Alan Watts always says, a person who thinks all the time.
What's your favorite quote?
Has nothing to think about except thoughts. Yeah. So you lose touch with reality. Yeah. So in terms of reality, do you need to schedule in your thoughts, or should you just be constantly thinking? Because I feel like one or the other might be way too draining in terms of like what you're doing, you know?
That's a good question. I'll start it off where I really like the idea of working like a lion. I don't know if that's from Naval or if it's from one random thing, but in short, you sprint when it's time to sprint, and you take leisure seriously. Like the ancient Greeks saw leisure as like the pinnacle of civilized life.
Mm.
And work was a necessary part of it, but it was nothing without leisure. And so I'm a big fan of taking some time. Like if you want to be the guy that works 12 hours a day all the time, then be my guest. But for most people, I feel like when you're on the right path or when you're on your path, you're going to notice just the natural pull to go in and work for 2 to 3 months on this big project that you're actualizing. But then once that's built, the work changes completely. And if you try to continue sustaining this like very intense baseline, you're going to head somewhere that's probably not optimal. You may not burn out, but I don't know. When you're in a normal season, when you're just maintaining baselines, you're making slow progress, you're being consistent, you're not necessarily in this big intensity phase, I feel like leisure is something that you need to kind of force yourself to do, especially if you're a workaholic. It's like go out, go on a walk, don't pay any attention to work. Things can wait. I don't care how much Slack is blowing up or how many emails you have backed up. When you start taking leisure more seriously and start working less, it really reveals what parts of the work are the most important and highest leverage, so you can come back and focus on those. And then things naturally start to fall off for things that you just don't need to do to maintain progress or increase progress. And so by maintaining this balance of focused work and leisure, your work naturally refines itself. So the next time you go into that intensity phase, and you think of these as like exponential, and after that comes a plateau to an extent, still like linear to an extent, but you go through these waves of how much progress you're making on your own path. And yeah, it's like throughout the plateau phases, you're kind of just like gaining vision. It's like a new chapter in a book where you start off and you're kind of snowball up in progress. Then you hit this point where you just know exactly what you need to do. A new project forms, you go all in on that, you work really hard, and you repeat the process. And it's this like very fulfilling natural cycle of not falling into one specific routine for the rest of your life.
And it's arguably more natural.
Oh yeah.
Because we are like cyclical, seasonal creatures. So the season perspective I really like. Like there's a winter season, there's summer, and you will have different perspectives and different ways of being during whatever time it is. And what's interesting with the plateau, because I love the concept of, have you read Mastery by George Leonard?
Yes.
It's a great book.
That's very good.
And the thing I've always took from that, because I first read it when I was like 18, and he always talks about the plateau that you mentioned. And for me, I noticed that there are plateaus where it feels like nothing is fucking happening.
Yeah.
Nothing. 2, 3, maybe even 4 months. But then all of a sudden it snowballs into something great, because all the while, like we have to understand, if you're a master, you are obsessed with the work. So you're always thinking about the work to some degree, right? And so you're clarifying different things and you're working on new ideas, but it takes some time to catch up. And I think that's what people struggle with a lot these days. They don't know how to deal with that plateau. They feel like they should jump ship and go to a different thing because they're not experiencing, in their mind, they should be experiencing linear results forever.
I mean, you can't do something for 2 days and then expect to be like, all right, okay, this isn't it for me. Like
it's ridiculous.
You haven't spent enough time, unfortunately. But you nailed it on the leisure. You have to schedule time for leisure, and that really identifies the priority list. It like straight up, like there's a thing that happens that I've talked to Zaid a lot about. Like every time I come back from travel, I'm like, I felt like I was playing like third person chess, like from a distance. Like I'm just like, all right, I need to change that, do this, do whatever. And then when you're back into the cycle, now you feel like you're the moving piece. So there's like a thing that happens where you start to be like, all right, that's not important. I can outsource that. I can do whatever, right? Just to optimize yourself into doing the most important work that requires like day in, day out. One thing I personally struggle with is, let's just say I take a day off. I wake up, do my routine, and I'm just like, okay, it's my day off. It's my day off. It's my day off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to do something, man.
Classic type A.
And it's just, what do? I don't know. go to a resort and just all you can eat. And and then I end up working.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's a bad thing because at least like you're not forcing yourself to, right? I feel like a lot of people like sacrifice leisure and force themselves to work rather than the other way around.
Yeah, the other way around.
Not that either's better, but one like thing on what you said to tack on a challenge to the whole leisure thing is I've done this unconsciously. I need to make it a conscious practice. So this is a challenge to me too, is to just like one day out of every 2 or 3 months, just drop everything, do nothing, and see what you have to do. And then everything you don't have to do, you know, that's kind of optional or doesn't have to be done every day. And just see like how you can reshape things to be more prioritized and to let go of a lot of the baggage that you've picked up just from working without paying attention to what's being piled on your plate for so long.
Do you mean have to do in the sense of what resonates with your intuition or soul the most, or what the schedule demands the most?
I would say a mixture of what your soul demands and what survival demands.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So both, where it's like, especially like even in our line of work, which is highly creative, like we have to do things to keep the lights on. And that's kind of priority number one. But then that's balanced out with the meaning, the soul behind everything. And it's going to, if you only take into account the survival aspect of it to keep the lights on without any underlying philosophy or meaning behind that, it's probably going to go in a bad direction.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how do I keep the ship alive in a meaningful way? And I feel like you'll be naturally pulled to do that. So it's hard to like tell what to do, but if you just like drop everything and see what you feel pulled to do, and then you can at least make an intentional decision as to what you choose to do and what you choose not to do, I feel like that you'll naturally filter what isn't important out.
Yeah, I'm really big on the intuition and obsession piece, which is kind of why I don't focus on goals anymore. I wasn't really too big on goals at all in my life. Like if I think back, a lot of it was just the obsession. Like I would focus on like soccer for like 22, 24 years. And that led me down a specific path. But what I find with the goals discussion is that if I'm obsessed, I naturally just gain improvement. Like I don't need to.
The goals are there, but you don't need to focus on them or hold them as something so static that you need to achieve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like I view it like just tackling a bunch of different little things day by day. Like I don't have a 3-month goal to achieve XYZ. It's more natural, I guess.
Based off observation, your goal is to be competitive.
The goal is to be competitive.
Yeah. Like if I tripped, you'd trip harder just because.
I don't know if I'm that competitive.
Because I gotta win.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Crazy, man. It's a lot to think about. And this really brings out like a weird feeling to me, at least, where this is really important for life structure, everything you're talking about it, and you're nailing it, by the way. Freaking awesome. And it's not dumbed down, but it's just super hard for someone not to understand it at this point, you know?
Yeah. That's what I try to do. Because one thing I don't like reading things, like I can comprehend them, but either it was like old language, which we don't speak anywhere anymore. It could have been like highly understood back then, but now just lost in translation. But I like taking the time to like apply the woo-woo or impractical or way too abstract philosophy to modern life. And it tends to be kind of self-helpy, but I feel like I can add another dimension there to make it feel more important and meaningful.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where, one, I have the most fun with content and what people like the most out of it.
Doesn't he remind you of Leo?
A little bit, dude. I can see it. Yeah. Do you know Leo from Actualize?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He knows him. He knows.
That's like my mentor, man.
Dude, that guy's...
I spent a lot of time with him on walks.
Yeah. I remember that very clearly. I remember the house I was in too, and every day I would just like around what time I would go, it'd be all right, it's Leo time.
Yeah.
Like,
He's an incredible thinker, man. Like spiral dynamics. He put me on spiral dynamics, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I thought I understood depth on one concept, and then I came across that, and I was like, damn, dude.
Have you gotten into Ken Wilber?
A little bit. A little bit.
Stuff's good. A Brief History of Everything is just like his book, everything condensed into that. It's pretty good. I feel like I mean, you're used to like Leo stuff. It'll make you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is like, it resonates. It makes me happy. And I think, to your point of, I guess, getting the message across to people, like I've always been a big advocate of not oversimplifying the work. Like for me with the circadian stuff, I don't want to oversimplify because I do believe you lose a lot of the magic.
Yeah.
If you oversimplify. Like, first of all, you're not stupid.
I hate the bullet point people.
Oh,
it's like, I need the actionable steps. You could have said this in 10 minutes. It's like, I don't want to fucking say it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's 45 minutes for a reason.
Well, on that point, what annoys you most about what you experience through the perspective of your work, at least from other people day to day?
It's probably I don't know if we talked about it on air. Wait, yeah, we did. The people who, like the arrogant replies in general, but the ones where they either read the title and then comment, and it's like, that's not even what the video was about. Like, like you missed the point or you didn't watch the video, or they'll cherry pick like one little thing that I say without any of the context, or it's like the one time where I didn't add 10 million caveats to what I was about to say.
10 million caveats.
And they haven't watched any of my prior videos. And then I'm just sitting there, like, I don't respond, but I'm just like frustrated with like you can, like the nuance doesn't have to be on me. It can be on you.
That's a good one. Yeah. You can think for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't have to provide every study reference for you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah. Source.
Oh God, dude.
I made it up.
It's like it's going back to Pixar. It didn't happen. You know, like
Pixar.
Yeah.
There was a lady that commented on one of our things, and then the way you responded, she came back laughing. I completely forgot.
It was on the pregnancy video.
Yeah, it was on the pregnancy video.
Yeah.
It's like, ha, you think you know a thing or two about women? And
something like that.
and then you responded to us, and she was like, LMAO, actually, that was pretty funny. And I'm like, what? The passive aggressive?
Yeah.
It's interesting because you can view social media comment section as like an exercise in wittiness or how to be witty. Or you can just block outright, which I do a lot. Like, dude, on Twitter, I have a block list of like 35,000 people. I'm not kidding.
I remember you talking about that one time. It's massive.
Yeah, because look, there's billions of people on the planet.
Yeah.
No.
Like, who cares?
I feel like it's a good gauge to get like how the majority of the world thinks, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this might not be for everybody, but the people that do, I know people will resonate with it. And that's the whole point of niche is like, you want to build a community with people that want to be in it too. So it's not like, you know, there's always going to be dumbasses out there.
No,
you know?
fair point.
But that's what they are. So like, if you have to really dumb down your language, you know,
no, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just to not be thorough, you know?
Because then that detracts
really
from your
important.
work.
Yeah.
Detracts from your quality of work.
It's like, if you're that dumb, chat GPT it, you know, take whatever I said and have it put it down in 10 bullet points.
Yeah. And then make an anonymous Twitter account.
Yeah. Well, everybody go follow Dan on his Twitter. We'll put all of his what was it? What am I saying? We have all the details down in the description below. Okay, we have his YouTube, which has successfully grown since the last time.
Killing it, man.
Insane, dude. We are very proud of you here at the 2 a.m. And keep going. You're helping a lot of people, including us, actually. So we have our local Leo now, which is amazing.
Local.
He's not posting as much anymore, man. Like I don't know how he can. Like,
it's too much.
I don't think I'm exaggerating. I honestly feel like we're gonna look back. He's gonna have one, if not the greatest bodies of work known to mankind. Like 400 like 3-hour long videos. I don't know anything else that is that comprehensive and that deep. covering all different ranges. It's insane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He captures you in a way where you're literally crisscross sitting down on the floor now. Like fully engaged.
Like, dude, he has a range where it's like how to get laid to 10 different episodes on God consciousness.
What is epistemology?
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
That was the early days were interesting.
His Instagram was hilarious for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, his Instagram for sure.
Literally sun chub out there. I'm like, damn, okay.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's a very weird Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow. He's a weird dude, but
weird is good.
Got a brain, yeah.
Any last words for us? Anything you're focusing on right now that you want the people to know about?
Just Cortex. That's like literally main focus. If you want note-taking app and cool AI stuff, try it out.
You have your book come out too, right?
Purpose and Profit came out. That one's just like a little burner book. Like I wanted to write it. Very small launch. The next book is called Walk.
Oh,
it's about walking. That one will be very long. Lots of stories. Still philosophical, but more. I'm trying to make it New York Times bestseller.
Amazing
quality. I don't know if you've called those books quality, but it should be good. It should be a good like weave of mainstream stuff mixed with some esoteric philosophy.
We can't wait, man.
I can't wait.
Incredible.
Fun. We'll definitely promote that for you.
You.
If you have any like free, what do you call it, sample packs or anything to get for
just
viewers to get started, Cortex.
Yeah.
There you go,
That's
guys. We'll have all of his links down in the description below. Go ahead and follow him. And if you haven't yet, rate us a 5-star on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You won't regret it. We would love that. Go ahead and give your neighbor a kiss. I don't know. Do whatever you want to do.
Give him a hug. Peace.
Awesome, guys. Catch you next time. Later.